We begin this morning in Iran. Throngs of people packed the streets for the funeral of a man viewed as an idol in Iran and a murderous criminal in the West. Iran's supreme leader wept openly as he prayed over the casket of Qassam Soleimani and others killed in a U.S. drone attack last week in Baghdad. Iran's state media put the number of mourners in the millions. Soleimani's daughter, Zainab, spoke at her father's funeral, telling the masses that the families of American soldiers will now spend their days waiting for the deaths of their loved ones. With more, let's turn to Kamran Bokhari. He's the founding director of the Center for Global Policy in Washington and National Security Foreign Policy Specialist with the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute. Kamran, good morning to you. Let's begin with the scene playing out right now in the Middle East. What do you make of these thousands, millions perhaps, of mourners coming out to pay their respects and at the same time vowing revenge against the United States?
This is to be expected. I mean, a very senior general got killed in a U.S. drone strike. U.S.-Iranian relations are, at their lowest point in many, many decades. And so this is to be expected. It's very raw. It's very emotional for the people. The masses that have thronged to the funeral processions also suggest that the regime has its support base. And the country seems somewhat divided. You have those who protest against the government and those who do support the government. So I think that the takeaway here is that this regime isn't weak and we shouldn't underestimate its strength at home.
Okay, and on that note, President Trump over the weekend on Twitter threatening to attack cultural sites, more than 50 of them. What do you make of that? According to some experts, that would be a war crime. Why would Trump say this?
Well, President Trump says a lot of things, and many of those don't pan out. I put it alongside, the rhetoric we hear from anybody in the world, whether it's President Trump or even the Iranians. The Iranians are infamous for giving out bombastic statements. Even right now, I mean, there are very loud cries for revenge, but that's rhetoric. What are they actually going to do? What is the United States actually going to do? I think such statements have perception-shaping value, but beyond that, they tell us nothing about the behavior of those issuing those statements.
So Iran is threatening retaliation. Kamran, what could that look like? What are you anticipating?
Well, Iran is in a conundrum. Iran has been shaken very badly because they never thought that their top general, Qassam Soleimani, would be killed. And so this is something that has really rattled the nation, the leadership itself. And the United States sent a message that, look, if you keep being aggressive and keep doing what you've been doing in terms of the attacks in the Persian Gulf, in Saudi Arabia, on our troops, then this is what could happen. So now they face a choice. They need to retaliate because otherwise they lose all legitimacy within the country. The regime loses legitimacy, and of course with its allies across the region. So it needs to regain that legitimacy. But it can't go too far to where the United States strikes them in even harder way and they have more to lose. Right now, one general is gone. But let's say if the United States was forced and they conducted airstrikes in Iran, then that takes it to another level. I don't think the Iranians are ready to commit geopolitical suicide.
Final question then for you. What is your assessment, Kamran, of where we are in terms of how hot this is? How dangerous is this territory that we're in right now? Because it seems like we're waiting for Iran to respond, and that is unnerving.
It is. It is absolutely. And U.S. security forces, military personnel, intelligence officials are, working very hard to figure out what that next move will be. But it's not easy to determine because the Iranians themselves at this point don't know what they will do. And therefore, we have a waiting game. But I think that the idea of a dangerous situation needs to be kept in some sort of context. The Middle East has always been dangerous for as long as I've been watching it. And so the question is, how much more dangerous is it going to get? Again, do the Iranians want an all-out war? No. Do the Americans want an all-out war? Absolutely not. And so I think that we just need to keep our sanity while we wait for the Iranian response, because otherwise we're not going to respond in the appropriate manner to whatever is coming our way.